Beware the Whispering Cave of Lost Souls. April 1945. The Battle of Okinawa. The island had been under siege by American forces for several weeks, every day bringing them closer to the island's heart. When the fighting drew close, many civilians fled to this cave. The survivors were taken out, but they were psychologically broken, many never speaking of what happened inside. Torch or flashlight in hand, you begin your descent into darkness. Deeper and deeper you go, the oppressive weight of the past pressing down on you. The further you venture, the stronger the feeling of dread becomes, growing steadily worse until you feel like you can't breathe. But most locals refer to it simply as the cave. It's not a place you can just wander into. One visitor spoke of an intense feeling of dread that seemed to press down on him as he approached the cave, believing they see the dead. Many have sworn off the cave for good, convinced it holds too much pain, too much suffering for anyone to bear. The cave is a physical wound in the land, a gaping hole filled with spiritual residue. And remember, if you dare to explore the darkest corners of our world, we may never see each other again. Those who enter unprepared are often never the same again. Not all war wounds bleed. Some whisper. He felt uneasy and out of place, as if he were intruding on something sacred. Despite the unsettling feeling, he continued on, drawn by an unseen force. Once inside, the atmosphere grew heavy and suffocating. He struggled to breathe as if an invisible hand were squeezing the air from his lungs. The darkness was thick and oppressive, pressing in on him from all sides. He felt a deep sense of sadness and despair that seemed to seep into his bones. Suddenly, he heard a voice, a whisper that sent shivers down his spine. "Get out," it hissed. "Leave us alone." He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. Was he going crazy, or was he actually hearing the voice of one of the dead? He tried to rationalize it away, blaming his overactive imagination, but the voice continued, growing louder and more insistent. "Get out," it whispered again. "You shouldn't be here." He panicked, scrambling to find the exit, his flashlight beam dancing wildly in the darkness. But the whispers followed him, echoing around him, taunting him. Finally, he burst out of the cave, gasping for breath, convinced that the spirits of the dead were trying to warn him, trying to protect him from whatever evil lurked within. If you do, you bring a curse upon yourself and your family. This isn't just local superstition either. There are actual physical barriers in place to prevent people from entering, such as fences and locked gates. Though these seem to be more in place to prevent vandalism than anything else. Of course, there are those who aren't so easily deterred. And so when rumors began spreading of strange occurrences inside the cave, paranormal investigators were quick to descend upon it, eager to uncover the truth. Just as despair threatens to overwhelm you, you hear a noise, a whisper, a sob, a child crying. You stop, straining to listen, but it's gone. Was it real or imagined? You continue on, trying to shake off the feeling of unease. Then the stench hits you again, but this time it's mingled with something else, something sickeningly sweet, like rotting flesh. Your flashlight flickers, casting grotesque shadows that dance around you, taking on a life of their own. You feel a sudden urge to flee, to escape the suffocating darkness, but something keeps you rooted to the spot. You want to see it through. And so the cave was sealed away, left alone to whisper its secrets to the wind. Yet the distinct sound of footsteps echoes around you. Panic rising within, you break into a run, stumbling and falling, scrabbling to get back to the surface, back to the light, gasping for breath. You finally burst out of the cave, blinking against the brightness. Stumbling to your feet, you look back, half expecting to see something horrible clawing at your heels. But there is nothing, only the dark gaping maw of the cave, silent and still. But as you turn to leave, you hear it again, a whisper, this time right behind you. "Leave us alone." You whirl around, but there is nothing there. And yet you feel a cold, malicious presence watching you, judging you. You break into a run, desperate to escape the suffocating dread that seems to emanate from the very depths of the earth itself. But the fear is too much. Your legs give way and you collapse, trembling uncontrollably. As the darkness closes in, you think you hear the voices of the dead, their whispers echoing around you, mocking you, taunting you. You don't want to go to sleep, but exhaustion pulls at you, and you drift off, half expecting to wake up to find yourself trapped inside the cave, surrounded by the whispering dead. But when you do wake, you're lying on the ground outside the cave, shaking but unharmed. Still, the feeling of dread lingers, clinging to you like a shroud. And as you stumble away, you can't help but feel that you're being watched, that the spirits of the cave are reaching out for you, wanting you to stay, wanting you to join them in their eternal suffering. But even now, decades later, some claim the spirits remain trapped inside, forever reliving their final moments, waiting to drag anyone inside to join them. We're talking dozens of children, elderly people, mothers with babies. They were hiding inside when the Japanese soldiers came, forcing them to stay. Or perhaps it was just easier to convince them to go along with the plan, knowing there was no way out. Either way, they were encouraged to commit suicide rather than face capture. Some were given grenades, others only a blade, while the rest simply suffocated together in the dark, dank chamber until they died. Screams echoed outside as blood soaked the cave walls, staining them crimson. Those who survived crawled over the bodies of the dead, escaping through the tunnels. What they saw inside, though, haunted them forever. It was clear that mainland Japan was next, unless the tenacious holdout at Okinawa could somehow turn the tide. But hope was a flickering candle in the wind, easily snuffed out by the relentless reality of war. And so the Japanese military did their best to snuff out that flame. They told the civilians of Okinawa that the Americans would show no mercy, that if captured, they would be tortured and murdered, families torn apart, and children used as bayonet practice. None of this was true, but it needed to be believed. Because when the inevitable came, and the Americans did invade, tens of thousands of Okinawans took their own lives rather than risk capture. And nowhere was this more pronounced than in one particular place, the Chibichiri Cave, which even today is spoken of in hushed tones by those who know its history. This was a limestone cave on the southeast coast of Okinawa, big enough for hundreds of people to take refuge inside. When the Americans finally entered the cave days later, they found a horrific scene, a mass of mutilated, decomposing corpses littering the floor. The air grows cold, heavy with the stench of damp earth and decay. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps. Quickening your pace, you try to rationalize it away. It couldn't possibly be real, could it? Japanese locals won't even speak of the place. To outsiders, the cave is known as Chibichiri Gama, or sometimes the Suicide Cave. And what they found was chilling beyond their wildest imaginations. But the story doesn't end there. Others have had similar experiences, feeling an overwhelming sense of sorrow or terror, even collapsing from exhaustion or hallucinating. There are a few small memorial plaques, but they've been defaced and nobody bothers to read them anyway.